This week's Sedra is Sedra Balak, and this week's Sedra has to be one of the oddest episodes in the entire Torah. It contains prophecy, blessings, curses, Gentile kings, and Gentile prophets. The Jewish people were on the march towards their homeland, and in between them and their land was the nation of Moab. As we find described in the Torah this week, the Jewish people encamped in the plains of Moab across the Jordan from Jericho, right here. Balak was the king of Moab, and he was terrified of the Jewish conquest. Knowing that they couldn't defeat the Jewish people, Moab and their king Balak turned to a more mystical means of starving off a Jewish attack. Balak sent messengers to a Gentile prophet, one who the Talmud wrote knew the moment of God's anger and how to capitalize on it. Balak figured that he could get Bilam, the Gentile prophet, to curse the Jewish people and channel God's anger against the Jewish people. God tells Bilam not to curse the Jewish people. In his commentary to the ensuing negotiations between God and Bilam, the Ramban explained that at first God didn't let Bilam travel with Balak's messengers and curse the Jewish people, for they were blessed. And what reason would Bilam have to travel if he wasn't allowed to curse the Jewish people anyway? Therefore, Bilam related Hashem's objection to Balak's overture. Balak then sent more men, thinking that Bilam merely wanted more money. Although Bilam said no, Hashem saw that he wanted to travel with them, so Hashem allowed him to go, but only if Bilam wouldn't curse the Jewish people. The Ramban continued and explained that Hashem told Bilam that he had to follow his command, even if it meant he had to bless the Jewish people. Hashem's plan was to have Bilam, a Gentile prophet, to bless the Jewish people. Bilam was supposed to relay God's plan to Balak. This would allow Balak's messengers the opportunity to leave Bilam there if they didn't like the conditions. Bilam so badly desired to go with Balak's messengers, he omitted God's condition to his traveling. The Ramban wrote that it was Bilam's neglecting to tell Balak's messengers that God said that he might have to bless the Jewish people that brought God's anger onto Bilam. The sin, explained the Ramban, was that Bilam made it seem that he had God's permission to go with Balak. This was not only a misrepresentation of the truth, but a desecration of God's name. Bilam gave the impression that God had allowed the Jewish people to be cursed. For the Ramban's commentary, it seems like the sin of impressions left are worse than actually agreeing to curse the Jewish people or ignoring God. What was so damaging about creating a mistaken impression about God? A prophet's role is to teach the truth about God and the reality of the universe. A prophet is let in on significant insight in order to help others discover the truth about God. There could be nothing greater than knowing God, and prophets were put in this world to assist man in understanding God. Bilam used his powers of prophecy to leave a false impression about God, forever misleading people about God. This is the worst of offenses you can cause to another, for it misled them away from their greatest achievement possible, the knowledge of God. Shabbat Shalom.